back to NATChat. I'm Amber Hardman. Today I'm here with LeighSheehan. Leigh, before the break we were talking about a movie that you'd made, Dalkeith.
Yeah, Dalkeith, and the troubles that we had getting that movie out and to an audience, and eventually we did get it out to an audience. After all the major distributors here in Australia said, no, people will never go and see this, we thought, well, people better go and see it because we've got a lot of people's money in it, and including my own, so it's got to be seen. Now, one of the things that we'd been doing back in 2001 was we've been working with DVD, and you have to remember this is kind of like the early days of DVD. So John, who was the producer, and I were thinking, how do we get the movie out? So we decided that we would self-distribute the movie. And we did a lot of radio, and through that radio we actually got contacted by a number of cinema owners, but in particular one here in Glen Waverley. And they said, look, we've been looking at ways of getting movies screened via digital processes, and we think this is a good one to do it with. So what we did was we put a DVD player in with a video projector, and that's how it virtually started. And then once we started doing that, the film rolled out virtually across Australia. We went probably overall maybe 30 or 40 screens across Australia. And we even had people who toured it like the old movie show man up and down the coast, down through the Bellarine Peninsula. And we're getting houses of 400 or 500 people in some of those theatres and things. So we kind of opened that up as a way of getting movies screened. And I guess, there's been a lot of talk within the industry about how we did that, and as a result a lot of other filmmakers actually would come to us and say, how do we get our movie out? We saw you guys did it. And it kind of opened it up a little bit more for people who were being blocked at that distribution end, because there's only so many movies that distributors can take from the Australian, there's a lot of movies that are made. I think they've got to support the film bodies who fund those pictures as well. So, it's hard for a lot of filmmakers to get their films out and to be seen. This is a way of doing that. And I think what's happened over the ensuing years is that we now have this thing called digital cinema or e-cinema, which is becoming involved. And even today I think there's around about 200-300 screens in Australia that run digital films, and we wouldn't even know that. When you're in the cinema, you wouldn't know that that's what you're watching. A lot of the theatre advertising is done that way. Some of the movies are done that way, and it's just been an interesting journey. But because of that opened up a lot of doors for us as filmmakers. And then eventually, after Dalkeith, about 18 months ago, we were asked to make another movie, which was called Under a Red Moon. And because digital had kind of come a long way down the track, we actually chose to shoot that film using digital formats as well. We used a Panasonic camera and shot it on high definition as ways of making the budget work for what we had.
Did you find that there was any difference between shooting on film and using digital video?
The interesting thing is the way to tackle digital, and I'd say it's for any filmmaker out there, is forget that it's digital. Forget it. If digital was invented 100 years ago, they may have called it film. I just think you just got to forget what it is. Forget what the format is that you're shooting on. There are, sure, some little technical requirements, but the technical people kind of will look after that for you. But it's about the story, and it's about photography of how you photograph that story. So if you're working with a really great DOP, and in the case of Under a Red Moon, I worked with a fantastic DOP, a guy I'd worked with on commercials for many, many years, a guy called Alan.
And that's a director of photography?
Director of photography. And Alan had worked with me on many commercials, so we kind of had a really good relationship anyway. And Alan was like one of the guys, early on guys, when shooting on video, would just treat it like film. It's about lighting. It's always about lighting, and it's never any different. So I try not to get caught up in all that technical part about, we're shooting bits, chips, and all that sort of stuff. You just use the same discipline on the technical side of making the film, how you light it and so forth. What it does give you is that virtually, because you are looking at a video monitor at a digital picture, you're kind of seeing pretty well what you're going to get. And there's a lot of things that we can do after the process in post-production to even enhance that. But you're looking at pictures and you go, wow, this looks pretty cool. The lighting looks really good, and you can tweak it either which way. Which, if you're shooting film, you can look at a video split as well, but it's much more in the head of the DOP, because he knows how many stops he's pulling on the film and all that. But this is probably quite a little bit faster process, in that we now have a person on the set that's called the DIT, and that's a digital ingest technician. And his job is similar to what we would have called a clapper loader back on film days. So his job is to take the cards that we're recording on, because we're not recording on tape or anything, we're recording on little cards with the information on there, and he takes it out of the camera. So in the old days it'd be somebody who would unload the film from the camera in the magazine and make sure it's not scratched and all that. This case, the DIT takes it out and stores it to a drive to back it up. That generally went off to the post-production house, because then we could also have editing happening at the same time, so it was like a much more concurrent process. So you've got, and anything I wanted to check, I could go and have a look at where the DIT was operating from, which was on set somewhere. Go, yeah, okay, well that looks really good. We might need to fix this up or do something there, or the editing say, hey, maybe you do need that extra shot. So you kind of don't have the lag of film, which can be 24-hour lag by the time it's processed and looked at and telecine and all that sort of thing to come back to. So with the way cameras and things are working now and the digital processes, I mean, I think that's going to go, because it's what the big distributors kind of want to have happen. Under a Red Moon now will go out sometime in August or September to cinemas, and it'll go out as a little hard drive thing that's loaded up onto another hard drive and becomes part of the programming within that cinema. So, the movie, it just changed the way we think, it changed the way things are delivered, it certainly changes the cost of doing things, which makes it a bit more accessible for filmmakers to do. But, it's always about story and look anyway, and
Leigh, we're just going to have to take another break. You're watching NATChat, and we'll be back after this break.